So welcome to the last track for this session today. We are happy to say that this track is patrocinated. Thank you to the sponsor ACMW from North America, and we are happy to introduce you our next moderator. She is Gabriela Merino. Gabriela, welcome to this space.
Thank you, Lucy. First of all, thank you for inviting me for sharing this session. It's a pleasure for me. And welcome everybody to this track that is about machine learning, data mining, and big data analysis. We will have 3 amazing presentations today from our invited speakers, and we will also have a lightning talk after the presentations. So remember that you can use the Q&A chat for doing the questions to our presenters, and then after they're finished their talks, they will be able to answer them. I will start to share my screen for presenting our first speaker. Are you seeing my screen really?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So let me introduce our first invited speaker. She's Gabriela de Queiroz from Brazil. She's a program director at IBM, where she manages and leads a team of developers that are working on projects of open source data and artificial intelligence. She's the founder of AI Inclusive, which is a global organization that is helping to increase the representation and participation of gender minorities in artificial intelligence. And she's also a founder of Our Ladies, a worldwide organization with over 180 chapters in over 50 countries. So there is no doubt that it is an honor for us to have to Gabriela among our speakers today. And the talk that she will do now is about data science as a team sport. So welcome, Gabriela, and thank you for being here today. And when you want, please, you can start with your presentation. I will stop sharing my screen now. So
thank you, everybody. It's such a great pleasure to be here with you all. Can you all see my screen now?
Yes.
Awesome. I'm just moving things around so I can see everybody. So hello, my name is Gabriela de Queiroz. I'm originally from Brazil, but I've been living in the US for the past few years now. And since joining the conference, I moved the role inside IBM. So now I'm doing a different role, and I'll be talking a bit about this role that I'm doing now, so you can understand a little bit of like the whole data science as a team sport that I'm talking today. So if you are interested in connecting with me, I have my Twitter handle and also this link tree that there is a lot of like interesting links. So let's go to the next slide. So nowadays I work at IBM as a chief data scientist, more on the data and AI strategy. And as Gabriela mentioned, I'm the founder of Our Ladies in AI Inclusive, and I will touch a little bit about this because this is part of like who I am as a data scientist, and also like when I talk about data science as a team sport, that's something that it's very important about the community and all that. I have a bachelor in statistics, also a master's in epidemiology, and then another master's in statistics. And it's funny when we talk about being a data scientist because it's such a broad field, and I don't think you can be just a data scientist. You can be a data scientist, but also you can be something else. Like in my case, I joke that I am a combination of like different roles. So I'm a data scientist, I'm a developer advocate, I am an open source developer, a manager, a statistician, an epidemiologist, a community builder, a mentor, a speaker, educator, and so on. So let's go through the journey so you can understand the whole data science as a team sport theme that I'm going to talk about. But first of all, going back to where I'm from. So I'm from Rio de Janeiro, and our official language in Brazil is Portuguese, and it's not Spanish. Unfortunately, my Spanish is not very good. I can barely understand. Hopefully in the future, this will change. And in Rio de Janeiro, the population is around 6 million. And also to give you an overview of my career transition, the changes that I went through, that I did throughout the years, you can see that as a data scientist, you can have different roles and different descriptions and different type of things that you do as a data scientist. It all depends to the type of company that you are working for, how the team is structured, and if it's big, if it's small. And I'm going to guide you through some of these examples so we can all understand first how important it is to have this flexibility so you can adjust as you change teams. And the other piece is how important is the teamwork, like being not the only data scientist in the company, but being in a team of data scientists and other people from different backgrounds. Let me go back here. Okay, so I cannot go beyond this talk before talking about Our Ladies, because again, it's such an important part of who I am, and it helps me through my trajectory as well. So Our Ladies, as Gabriela mentioned, is a worldwide community to promote diversity in the art community via meetups and mentorship in this friendly environment. So it all started almost 10 years ago, 2012, here in San Francisco in California. And now we are pretty much all over the world in several countries and with a lot of members. And then in 2019, because I was working on the AI field and I saw this urgency of creating a community around AI, especially to bring awareness around the whole implications and discriminations and problems that people were having and are having because of this AI algorithm. So I created this other organization where the goal is to increase this representation and participation of minority groups in AI. And if you are interested in knowing more, we have a bunch of links here. You can take a picture or go to the website. All these links are there. And we offer several things, like we host events, workshops, tutorials, and so on. So let's talk about the data science career. The data science career is such an interesting topic because, again, it's a very hot topic. Pretty much everybody wants to become a data scientist. People are changing careers to become a data scientist, but it's not always it's clear what are they looking for example, as a hiring manager, someone that is hiring, or even someone that is looking for a job. What are the areas that I should focus on? So let's go through this. I really like this chart, this cartoon, because again, the whole misconception around data science. So the first cartoon, the first square here says what my boss thinks data science is. So my boss thinks that it's like a money printer, that I create something and then they'll get more revenue, or I will increase the revenue for my company. And then what my customers think data science is. So my customers, the people that don't know much about data science, they think that it's magic, right? So it's like you do something and then you get an answer. It's like magic. And then the soft engineers or engineers, they think that data science is kind of like something from the future. They don't know much. They know that maybe it's a combination of like math, statistics, machine learning, and you do all this together and you get something from the future. You can predict the future. But data science, in my opinion, is much more than that, right? So it's much more than that because, one, you can work in different areas. You can be working on the infrastructure. You can be doing more like statistical modeling, or even like working on the data sources, or doing more soft engineering or data engineering work. And more than that, if you are in one area, you are going to be working with different people doing the other pieces of the work. So in my opinion, data scientists are adaptable and flexible professionals. And that's the key of like us data scientists, because we can adapt and adjust as we go. And to show you this, I want to show some of the roles of a data scientist in different companies. So again, different roles in different companies, they are going to be different depending on the company, depending on how the team is structured. And I want to give some examples of what I'm talking here. So a while back ago, a few years back, I was working for this company called Alpine. And Alpine was an advanced analytics platform for big data. And we had this software where the idea was to make data science easier for anyone where you didn't have to code to use this platform. So it was like a drag and drop canvas that you would combine operators and then you would get some results. So in that company, we were very small. We were about like 40 employees. We had about 10 engineers, but we had 5 data scientists. So the ratio was pretty good, I would say. And we as a data scientist, we had different roles or like responsibilities. And one interesting thing that not everybody understands and think that it's not a data scientist, this type of role, because I was not coding. Maybe I was coding 1% of my time, because remember that software, the idea was for you to use the software, you didn't need to know how to code. So I was not coding, but what I was doing there was I was being a consultant. So I would work in a project with a client that had bought the software. Also, because it's a software, it's something that people are going to use. We as a data scientist, we had to write the documentation on how to use the software. What are some examples that they can use? What are some use cases? And then the third piece was around training the customers on how to use the platform. And also like we had some like teaching on the techniques as well, but it was more around the platform. And then the fourth point was about prioritization. So as me, as a data scientist, work with clients, they would come to me and say, we need this new feature, it's missing this type of feature, we need this and this and that. So I would go back to my team and say, client X requested these three features. The other client requested all these 3 features. And then we would work together on prioritize what are the features that should come in the next release of the software. So as you can see, I was working as a data scientist with clients, with other data scientists, with engineers, with product team. And the tools that we were using in the company were pretty much the software that we were selling. And the engineers, they would use Spark, Scala, and Pig and Hive. Then I moved to a totally different company. And that's why flexibility and being adaptable, it's so important. Changed domains, went to a totally different domain. This company was an advertisement company, and I was the only data scientist. And the company was a little bit bigger than the previous company. So we had 150 employees, 20 engineers, and only 1 data scientist. So that was a unique situation for me. It's not very unique. You still can find some companies where you are going to be the only data scientist. And that role as the only data scientist is going to be very different. So on that company, I was working on the infrastructure, because when I got there, they were collecting a lot of data all the time, every second they were collecting data, but they didn't have an infrastructure or a pipeline in a way that I could use the data. The data was stored, organized in a way that it was impossible for me as a data scientist to consume. So for 6 months, I was working with the engineers to create this infrastructure. So then I could work on the models and the optimization piece. So I did some experimental design as well. And the other piece it was around education, because my team didn't know what type of data science or what is the data science workflow. They didn't understand much about my work. So I was educating them around how the data science works, right? And also like I wanted them to understand the things that I was doing. So we would have like lunch and learns like every Friday on during lunch, we would get together, watch a lecture together, like let's say Statistics 101, and we would go and watch and then learn together, and then I would show them some of the things that I was doing as well. And in this company, me as a data scientist, I had the flexibility of using different tools. So I was using to query the data, I was using like MySQL, for example, for databases. And then when working in a different environment, I was working with Spark and using Python. And then when I was creating things offline, I was using R. Then next company again, another shift, another domain, something different. Now it's a credit card company. It was in the financial now space. So again, data scientists being able to be flexible to change domains. And it was also like something that I've never worked before. So I had to understand from the beginning all the terminologies, so I could understand, for example, the data that they had, what kind of metrics they were looking for, what were the things that were important for their business. So that company was very small as well. We had 35 employees, 7 engineers, and 4 data scientists. So again, the ratio is very different. We had a bunch of data scientists proportionally, if you look to the other companies. In that company, I was working with, and also like very different, I was working with the CEO, with the CFO, with the marketing team, with the other data scientists. We would work with the engineers as well, a little bit here and there. In that one in particular, we were using R from beginning to end, from like setting up all the databases to putting model in production. So for me, someone that really likes R, that was like a dream job in the tool space, because I was using R every day from the, creating dashboards to creating models. So we were responsible for the infrastructure. Also, we were creating dashboards, and the dashboards were used by everybody in the company, from the CEO to the marketing folks, and also in the call center. So we had like several R shiny dashboards running in real time. And then because we all used R, we saw that a lot of things that we were doing were repetition. So we created an R package, so we would assure that all the things that we were doing were the same, standard and reproducible. And then the last piece was around the models. And then went from very small companies to IBM. And IBM, it's my second role inside IBM. And IBM, as you can imagine, we are huge. We are over 300,000 employees. I have no idea how many engineers we have. I have no idea how many data scientists we have, because we are so big. And also, like, there's responsibilities, even though it's a huge company, the responsibilities that I had, or the data scientists had, can vary a lot. So it's again, it depends on the team that you are working on. But in my case, I was working with open source developers. I was working with researchers. I was working with other data scientists. I was working with people on the AI ethics team. So we had a lot of collaboration, interaction with different teams. And in terms of tooling, again, Python, R, and then we had another 2 tools that we used to use, which is Docker and OpenShift. Then moved to this other team, and this other team is even more collaborative. We have more diverse team members in terms of like technology backgrounds, right? So we now have like data scientists working with project manager, working with front-end developers, working with back-end developers, working with UI designers, UX designers, researchers, and so on. And again, the responsibilities changes as we move projects. So because we have this flexibility of working in different projects, it all depends on the project, and the role will change. And in this case, even though some of the tools that I'm listing there is not like a data science tool, but we as a data scientist, we are able to understand what are the tools that the team members use so we can talk to them, right? So data science requires a team of players in different positions. So as I showed in the previous slide and in the previous slide and in the previous slide, you can see that it's usually data scientists with other people supporting you and working with you. Could be like a data engineer, it could be someone from research, it can be a project manager, it can be some stakeholders, right? So there are several important skills that we need to have as a data scientist. And I'm going to list some of them, and I kind of like divide them up in two main categories. The first one, it's more like technical, which is something that we all talk about and see all the time. So it's around machine learning, it's around statistics, it's around programming. And one thing that I always talk is, and I say is, especially in the programming piece, because there is this whole discussion, which language should I know? What are the tools that I should learn? And I would say that pick one. If you never tried any language, try at least two and see which one you like better. And then pick one and then become good at one language, because then it's easier for you to migrate from one language to the other one, right? And even though people don't talk much about statistics, statistics is like the foundation of everything that we do, right? Then the other parts that I also mentioned, that is not the technical skills that you should have, it's more about what I call the essential skills. And in my opinion, it's as important as the technical skills. And sometimes it's harder than the technical skills. So one is around communication, because if you do something, any analysis, any report, any insight that you have, if you cannot communicate to the stakeholders, or if the way that you talk, it's very technical, people will not understand. So it's very important to communicate your results in a way that people can understand, and even like over communicate the things that you are doing. The other piece is around curiosity. Keep asking why am I doing this? Why am I getting these results? And always trying to be curious about the things that you are doing. The other one that I mentioned several times is the flexibility. Critical thinking, so important. Ethics, fortunately, we are talking more and more about this. It's like we need to know if the things that we are creating, is it going to affect people's life? It's going to affect differently underrepresented minorities. Should I be doing what I'm doing? Is this going to affect, like always think about the issues that this can cause, right? And then the last piece that sometimes we don't realize, it's be yourself, because what you bring to the table, it's going to be very different from the other people. You have something that is unique, your experience is unique. So remember that. So data science is a teamwork. So individuals with different skills, backgrounds, views, ideas, they all work together where they support each other in each step of the data science process. That's all I had for you today. So thank you very much. And I think we have a few minutes for questions.
Thank you so much, Gabriela, for your presentation. And I think that it was really nice. I also think that sharing your experience is enriching for anybody who is here now and that is working in data science, and even more maybe for those that are starting their careers in this area. And I also like your description about yourself, telling that you are more than a data scientist. I completely agree with you. We have some questions in the Q&A session. Maybe you want, I can read it and you can answer. So the first one is from YouTube. Anna is saying that it was an amazing talk, Gabriela. And the question is, how do we jump from courses to becoming real data scientists?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I would say that the first job is the hardest one. because you have to prove yourself and you don't have like experience in the area. So there are a few ways that I think of. One way is show your work, because the employer, they will ask you, what is your experience? And then if you don't have an experience in the area, you can show some of the side projects that you did, even like the courses, the final projects from the courses. Have a portfolio. And portfolio, the way that I think of portfolio is like having a GitHub with some projects, but not only having the code, making sure that in your README file that you have a summary of the things that you are doing inside, in what is kind of like an abstract, but not as academic, I would say. More like, tell the story. What are you trying to do? And how did you solve the issue? And what are your conclusions? So then me as a hiring manager, I can see, I can go through by myself and understand what you are doing. So the portfolio, it's an important one. The other piece is, if you are moving careers, don't forget to talk about your past experience, even though you think it's not aligned to the data science role, but there are several aspects of the things that you do in the past that the employer can be interested in knowing more. And your domain expertise can be translated to different roles in the data science world.
Yes, totally agree. I want to read a question that is in the chat that is from Marta. She's asking, how can we motivate our undergrad students into data science?
Undergraduate or graduate?
Yes, undergraduates.
Again, show some use cases. Like if you are teaching a class, for example, invite people in the industry or in academia so they can talk about the real problems they are trying to solve, because there are so many different problems. What I showed you, it's a very subset of the things that the data science can be doing. And I think, like, looking back to when I was a student, one thing that I missed was to understand what the things that I'm learning, how am I going to be using this in the future in my career? So there is a gap between what we learn and then what we use in real life. So if we can bridge this gap, that's so wonderful for the students, so they can get motivated and they know, oh yeah, I could use this that I'm learning there in the future, right?
Yes, right. We have 2 more questions and we have a bit of time, so we can answer them. So one is, as someone with imposter syndrome, I am curious on how you maintained such a great career and dealt with the difficulties in the path.
That's a great question. So what I showed you here, it's all my successes. What I didn't show here, it was all my failures. I didn't show here. So when you look at what I showed here, you are like, oh, wow, you had a very straight path and career. It's not true. We all go through ups and downs, and we have imposter syndrome still every day, pretty much. And we just learn how to deal with, right? So it's an ongoing process that we are going to go through. And I would say that, you know, every year it gets a little bit better with the imposter syndrome, and difficulties it will always be there. It's very hard to not have any blockers or difficulties throughout this path.
Yes, and I think that it will be in any career that we're pursuing. And we have another question on the YouTube from Anna too. So what do you think? The question is, do we have chances being women with more than 30 years old?
Oh, totally. I moved from academia to the industry when I was over 30. I finished my undergraduate, I was almost 30. So we can, you know, I don't think nowadays the age is that, you know, a hard thing anymore. We can change all the time. I see people changing careers all the time when they are 30, 40, 50. You know, it's all about your your spirit and your motivation. That's all.
Yes, I think that it is enough with wanting to do this. If you want to do, you can do this, I think. And we have another question from Maria that is, would it be worth it to encourage girls to get into data science since school years, middle and high school? What is your opinion?
Absolutely. And I think like in some places, girls in general, they get more motivated and encouraged to follow this data and data science path. But in other places, it seems so like we don't have this, again, the connection. I think it's all making sure that the way that we learn are going to motivate them and to make them curious to know more about data and the data science career. Like if we can get examples, interesting examples that they can resonate with, that's amazing. So it's totally worth it. Like there is no discussion. It's worth it. Encourage anyone to go into this field, and we should be encouraging in early stages instead of like only like in the end of their undergraduate, for example.
Yes. So thank you so much, Gabriela, for being here, for your talk. It was amazing. You have a lot of congratulations in the chat and a lot of people that are saying that you are inspiring them. So congratulations for this too.